Good afternoon, on what is a cool, grey and cloudy day. It is Sunday, the 31st of March, Easter Sunday, and I'm in the reading up with a nice hot cup of tea. And a box game to finish unboxing. This is a copy of Tunnels and Trolls, originally designed by Ken St. Andre and published by Flying Buffalo Games. This edition is the 5th edition, second printing, published in 1980 by Chris Harvey Games here in the United Kingdom. It's still the same game, and I was after a copy of this in order to write a review of it next year on its 50th anniversary. Yes, Dungeons and Dragons is 50 years old in here in 2024. Tunnels and Trolls is 50 years old next year. So my friend Lee managed to find a copy, and this is quite a nice box set. It's missing the dice, but it's got everything else in it. Now, I've already unboxed the core rulebook, so I'm going to have a look at what else is in this box set as well. So, we start off with what's in this box, which I always like, as you know, if you've watched any of these videos before. The Tunnels and Trolls rulebook, which is relatively little changed from previous editions. It's cleaner, tidier, more accessible, still a good read. And then we get on to the contents in here. Buffalo Castle. Buffalo Castle is the first adventure written specifically for solitaire play, designed for use with Tunnels and Trolls warrior characters, an excellent introduction to fantasy role-playing game playing, and solitaire adventure play in particular. Buffalo Castle has an abundance of rooms, traps, monsters, and treasure. Buffalo Castle is number one in a series of unique solo dungeon adventures designed for play with Tunnels and Trolls system of fantasy role-playing. If you have difficulty gathering enough players or friends to play Tunnels and Trolls together, or if you only have a little time to play, then the solo dungeons are designed for you. You only need the rules for Tunnels and Trolls, a few six-sided dice, paper, pencil, and this booklet to play. So, we open up. Now, the interesting thing is that Solo Adventures, when this was originally published, essentially 1976 or so, 1977, were not new. There were books available. I'm thinking particularly of the tracker books, which I actually have one, and I was given in 1977 or so for Christmas. But Solo Adventures role-playing games were different because what they introduced along with the Solo Adventure were rules. So that you could take your character that you created, using these rules presented in the full rulebook, okay, and you needed the full rulebook to play this adventure. You needed this to play this, okay, but if your character survived, okay, it could walk away with the treasure and the experience gained in playing this, and then, for example, go and play another solo adventure. Or, let's just see if we can get this out. This doesn't want to come out. Play a full proper adventure like Dungeon of the Bear. Okay, and then go away, have another solo adventure. So the possibilities were kind of endless. This was something to do with your character when you weren't with a group or you didn't have a group. And there were an awful lot of these. For example, it just gives a list of 12 in there in the back. And these were relatively inexpensive at the time. So for example, let's have a look. Naked Doom, £2.50. It would have been cheaper, a little bit earlier than that. But you only wish that scenarios were that cheap these days. So let's have a look in this. This is designed by the late Rick Loomis. With cover and art by Liz Danforth. And you open up and we've got an introduction. And then essentially for the player, and then for the character, sets everything up. And we have the organisation, as you would expect, of clear, simple, clean paragraph entries organised one after the other. A bit confusing necessarily here because you've got sort of like different you've got sort of essentially subsets of numbers here. So 2A, 2B, 2B, 2C, etc. Rather than ordinary plain numbered paragraphs, which you would expect, say, for example, when you got to something like a fighting fantasy game, basically after 1982. But essentially, the thing is, this predates that by about 5 years. So just flipping through, not much to see. I mean, yes, cover is by Liz Danforth, but the illustrations inside are a little bit. I mean, that's decent, but the individual illustrations in the dungeon, I think, are not always as good as they could be. I think, you know, some of these are a little bit rough in places. So essentially what you will have is a mixture of the usual kind of traps and tricks and monsters and puzzles to be sorted. You know, here's an encounter with a tentacular beast, and, you know, facing either there you're being a warrior, you're basically I mean, that's a little bit scrappy, if I'm, you know, levelling a criticism at first sight. And the other thing that springs to mind is the relative shortness of this dungeon, the relative shortness of the individual paragraphs. They're almost thumbnail descriptions, you know, literally just running to one sentence in some cases. But the relative length of this, what means is that, you know, you can play through this. Okay, if you fail, you can come back and try again, or you can go back in again and explore other avenues that you didn't look at last time. You could easily go through here and kind of clear it out, because there aren't that many entries in the dungeon as a whole. And then, so here's the end. So this runs to. I don't know if I tell you how it's what, 28, 30, 32 pages, or 30 pages. We've got a wandering monster table at the end here, and as you say, Buffalo Castle is number one in Flying Buffalo's series of solo adventures. There we go, including the infamous Death Trap Equalizer dungeon, which I think Death Trap dungeon from in Livingstone was a tribute in its way, and actually is 40 years old this year and is getting a re-release and a sequel. We've got lists there of the non-solitaire dungeons published as well, and then we have an advert for SWAT or SWAT. Star Web, aptitude test, duelite war games, science fiction, role-playing games, computer games, play-by-mail games, etc. And this then essentially a little bit of a silly kind of advert for Star Web. Now, Star Web was a long-running play-by-mail play-by-mail game, adjudicated essentially by computers, and that was something that Flying Buffalo basically pioneered in a way, introducing a lot of computer-based play-by-mail games to the hobby. You know, which is, and then essentially, I think KGC Games would run an awful lot of them here in the UK. So that's Buffalo Castle. That's a little bit of history, because as the first solo adventure published for any role-playing game in the industry. So I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then do please click on the like button down below. If you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here typically with, let me just get this, with a box containing a book or game, a role-playing game, or supplement which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge, but instead what you have here is me unboxing parts of a complete role-playing game, in this case Tunnels and Trolls, essentially the solo scenario from it, which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. In the meantime, thanks again for watching another unboxing of the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.